Welcome to Ann Arbor Democracy, a place for conversation about how our local leaders are elected and how political decisions are made, what this looked like in the past and what it looks like now. This project aims to explore the recent history and current reality of Ann Arbor democracy. This is part 2 of a conversation with Lou Belcher, who served on Ann Arbor City Council representing Ward 5 and served as mayor from 1978 to 1985. In the mayoral election of 1977, Lou Belcher, who was then serving as mayor pro tem, challenged Democratic incumbent mayor Al Wheeler. The result of that election was that Al Wheeler beat Lou Belcher by a single vote. In part 2, Lou talks about the contested 1977 election, how it was resolved, and how he juggled his day job with being mayor. He also talks about his collaboration with community leaders to rescue the Michigan Theater. I'd like to back up a bit and talk about the 77 election.
Yeah,
So you had been first elected from Ward 5 in 74.
yeah,
So you had served at that point 1.5 terms. You had gotten reelected
yeah,
in 76.
yeah.
And then in 77,
Well, I was mayor pro tem,
okay.
and went up against Al, and we had a dynamic council. We just had the right council for what Ann Arbor needed at that particular time, and it was Republican and Democrat. The election of 77 came down to Al and I, and we knew it was going to be close. Incumbent, all that. But it came out to the one vote. And it was a marvelous education in democracy. At the end of this whole thing, we knew each vote by a name. The Wiggly Squiggly, that was one where the Wiggly Squiggly went off. The offbeat, which was an X outside the box that kind of touched the box. Now, this is one vote. I mean, you're looking for one vote. This is when, in the middle of all this, Tom Weeder comes up and says, I found 20 people live in the township that voted. And, of course, Ann Arbor, the way it grew up is that within Ann Arbor, and this comes in later in my story, if you live in Ann Arbor, your neighbor may be a township guy, even in the middle of town. These little squares of township. It's funny because no computers. The township people would pull their garbage cans over and put them in the driveway of their neighbor. No, I don't kid you. Our fire trucks would go to a fire. We had a fire on the Steel property on Liberty Street. It was a farm at that time. Now it's all apartments. A little farmhouse back there caught fire, and it's a township. And the Ann Arbor Fire Department goes out there with all our big trucks and everything. They put that fire out. As our people are winding up the hose, this little dink of a fire truck comes in from Scioto Township. It could fit on the back of one of our trucks. And we didn't send them a bill. But that got to be a problem. But these 20 voted innocently. They thought they were citizens of Ann Arbor. We got these 20 votes, and now the election is really contested. And what to do about these 20 votes? I don't know if you read the story, but judge convenes trial. And our lawyers are going nuts, both Al's and mine, because he's going to ask them how they voted. Dumb shit, I won't say it there. You're giving these people 2 votes, theoretically, the one they cast and the one they're going to tell you they cast. Uh-huh. So our lawyers are screaming, and the judge doesn't listen. So he starts a trial. They got the 20 people here. The place is packed. And now the news people have got Newsweek and one vote, that kind of thing. Your vote really counts. Anyway, they start calling. They called 3. Called the first one. So how did you vote? And the first guy says, I voted for Al Wheeler. And the second one said, I voted for Lou Belcher. And the third one's a freshman at Michigan. And she said, I'm not going to tell you, Judge. He said, no, I want to know how you voted. She said, I'm not going to tell you. I cast a secret ballot. It's going to stay secret. That's the American Constitution of the United States. I'm not going to tell you. The judge now is embarrassed. He doesn't know what the hell to do. He said, young lady, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court right now, unless you tell me. She said, Judge, I'm not going to tell you. He said, bailiff, handcuff her, take her out. So they handcuff her and take her out. Now, Tom Weir still contends to say he didn't handcuff her. They handcuffed her. They took her out and took the handcuffs off the minute they got out of the court. And now she's in jail. And the trial goes to hell in a handbasket because it stops it right then. And now Newsweek and Time and everybody else is in town. And they're following this case like a defiant young freshman takes on the government. The judge doesn't know what to do. He's getting creamed. And he should have been. I mean, it was a dumb thing to do. So he's getting enough pressure now that his job's in danger. And he calls my lawyer, Bob Henry, and Al's lawyer. I can't remember who Al's lawyer was. And the 2 candidates. He said, gentlemen, we got a problem. I think Bob says, we don't have a problem. Judge, you have a problem.
Let's be clear.
The judge says, what do you think the remedy should be? Well, Al and I had already chatted. I said, well, you serve out this term. I'll take you on next time. And that's what we did.
But he didn't get a whole term.
No, he had 1 year.
1 year.
That's all.
I read an article in 77. You said that you were not going to run for Ward 5 again because you were waiting on the court decision.
Yeah.
So you were kind of biding your time.
Yeah, at that particular time, depending on what the courts did. I didn't want to hold somebody up from running Ward 5. Quite frankly, I just between you and I in the fence post, I really didn't give rats. I mean, I have a company run, it's growing like mad, and I've now got 3 daughters, and I've got a lot of employees, and I can't let them down. And I can't let my partners down. I mean, God, to buy a building downtown so I could be mayor. We bought a building. It was a money pit. A money pit. A old hotel right next to the city center building. Right kitty corner to City Hall. My partner said, Lou, you can't do this job unless you're down there. So we're going to buy this building. What do you think of that? And I said, well, guys, I don't want you to spend all that money for this building. It was an expensive building. And it had been an old hotel. There's still wooden seat toilets on floor 3 up here. The pipes were all wooden, and God, it was just, if you hadn't seen the movie The Money Pit, that was it. But my partners did it, and I thought, well, I can't let them down, for God's sake. And then the Republican Party said, you got to run again, and so I did.
So 78 was like a redo of 77.
Yeah.
You and Al Wheeler up against each other again.
Yeah. By this time, 30,000 people vote, 10,000 more than last time.
Do you attribute the greater turnout to
anything?
anything?
Yeah. Everybody's guilty. Everybody said, God damn, the vote does count. I let him down. It was in the rain. I couldn't get out there on my bike. Blah, 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 blah.
So it was raining in 1977.
Oh, yeah. It rained all day. Yeah, all the students that worked for me, they had bikes and they walked. Well, one vote's not going to count anyway. So, so I won by 254 votes out of 30,000. Mm-hmm. My caucus called me landslide Lou.
Now, somewhere in this timeline, I want to talk about the Michigan Theater.
Okay.
What happened?
First of all, I will say this. All the great projects, I was the art and housing mayor. And I'll tell you how that came about, because it made a big difference, I think, in Ann Arbor. Not me, but all the people in Ann Arbor, if you let them loose, if you give them a voice, you're going to hear from them. So I get a call, my secretary does, and books in Henry Aldridge. And I didn't know Henry from anybody. And he sat down with me and he said, Mr. Mayor, we're going to lose the Michigan Theater. Well, I hadn't really thought. I hadn't been keeping track of what sales going and so on. And he said, in the Organ Society, we'll lose one of the few remaining organs, theater organs. And is there something you can do to help us? Can you come down to the theater and can we show you some things? And I said, sure, I'll come down. And we sat down there, and because it was so funny, because it meshed in with what I was thinking, I had booked in some programs. I wanted to come to Ann Arbor, and we were going to use the University of Michigan. We couldn't get into the U of M because of they scheduled. And I thought, we don't have a city auditorium. But I love the theater anyway, because I'd gone down there before. And it was an icon. How many Michigan grads, students, suck tongues in the balcony? That was the selling point of the whole thing.
Was the balcony?
Balcony. Anyway, I said, okay, guys, we're going to do it. How are we going to do it? I said, I got to think. I'll go back and think. Well, I got a really strong Republican caucus. Not enough to buy something, because I only had 7. I needed 8 for a capital acquisition. So it came time, I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy this theater. We're going to create a foundation. And we're going to get some big names in on this. Both, no politics. Eugene Power, the Tousleys, all the big money in town. And we're going to get this damn thing done. Well, they had signed a sales agreement with a restaurant. They had already signed first right of refusal to a restaurant. I had to get that back. So I met with the owners of the restaurant, and I said, if you give up the first right of refusal, I'll help you get a spot in Ann Arbor, downtown. And I told them why. I said, this needs to be a theater. It needs to be for the population. And I'll give you credit for it. Hey, come on, you do this, maybe I'll help your restaurant. So I got the first right of refusal back. And then I went to the Ann Arbor Bank. All 3 bank presidents at the time were close friends of mine. Only because of business. I've not had anything to do with the city. I went to the Ann Arbor Bank and I said, you own the property behind the Michigan Theater. And I'd like to have you give the city the air rights over your land that you're going to build a parking structure in. And we'll help you build a parking structure. In fact, you can move all your cars down there behind the Michigan Theater, and you can have all this space for, expand your branch or your headquarters or whatever. So he says, okay, we'll give you the air rights. which is funny because later the Michigan Theater sold the air rights for $3 million. Anyway, so we got that done, and then council, I took it to council, and I couldn't get a Democrat to vote for the foundation or anything. And now my agreement with the restaurant's going away. I'm under the gun. And so I said I'll buy it myself. I didn't have $1 million, but I'll raise it somehow. I'll buy it. I went home and told the kids, I said, if this fails, you're going to be living downtown.
At the theater?
At the theater. They all still get a big kick out of that. So finally, the one Democrat that I really, really do like personally, and he's tried to hold his vote with the caucus, their Democratic caucus. I don't know why. I think Leslie Morris was I don't know who it was, but I couldn't get a vote. And I took it to council, and if you read the book, I just said, I can't get the vote. And I said, guys, to the whole city council, I said, we're going to lose this city auditorium, and we're going to lose an icon that's going to anchor that whole place down there. Nothing. Earl Greek comes in later and says, tell me about the theater. Earl and I were friends. We were. I helped him on a couple of things he needed help. Not as a favor, but they were good things. But this is after I bought the theater. Now I got the theater. So now I got a problem. Because in order to buy the theater, I've got to buy the projectors and the seats. And they're owned by a separate organization than the theater. So in order to have this go through, even as a risk, I've got to get rid of this supplier over here. So I called up the Tousleys and said, Margaret, I want to come talk to you and Dr. Harry. And I went over to their house. They're lovely people. One side of me, and one side on the other side. And I told them the story. And I said, I need $150,000 tomorrow. And Margaret said, Harry, make sure that check is written. Okay. So Bob Henry comes down. He's on council. Bob Henry comes down, and the check comes over. Bob Henry's carrying the check to me. The goddamn thing's made out to Lou Belcher. Now I'm on the hook for taxes for $150,000. I said, no, this is a foundation. So I got the $150,000, and we get rid of this guy. Now I thought, now we're going to see how this town reacts. Well, there's more Michigan theater fans in this town and in the alumni than you could even believe. How many people suck tongues in the balcony? A lot of them. That was my battle cry. It was amazing. I got all the big people in town to serve on this committee. And things started happening. The day after the vote, and we had the theater, his lawyer, a zoning lawyer expert of the world. And his office is right on here in the street. He has a gas station with flowers all over it. And that's where he's a curmudgeon. He's on my ass all the time I was mayor. The zoning you passed over there, did you ever look at that zoning? I mean, every zoning thing. I do, right? I mean, and I didn't want to bring him in. I got a zoning chief. And he comes in. My secretary, my company secretary sees him coming down the street. She said, "You better get over City Hall. He's coming down." Always on my ass. He come in and he said, "Belcher." The only other guy that called me Belcher was Bo Schemickler. "Belcher, God damn it." He comes in and stomping in, and he's got this goddamn thing of paper, and I'm going to get a lecture. And he says, "God damn you, Belcher." He said, "You're going to need this shit more than I do." And he threw down $16,000 worth of GM stock the day after they left. And the money started coming in. And still, I mean, that theater is such a mess. The first thing we booked in was the University of Michigan Marching Band to give a concert. And it's dark, it's raining, and the goddamn electrical system catches fire. And I got the fire department down there putting the fire out, marching bands down the street. It's just not going to be an easy job. But once we got that committee together, and I mean, it was Democrat, Republican, the best lawyers in town, the best accountants. And I said, "You guys are going to be the committee that organizes the foundation, and we're going to raise money, and this theater is going to be raised. Right? We're going to have the money to do it. Because I'm not going to have fires all the time and everything else." And we had our first hire was, I can't remember his name, it was a total disaster. Total disaster. Big guy. Jesus Christ, he couldn't leave a bunch of Girl Scouts across the road, Boy Scouts after him. I wasn't on the board, but I said, "This isn't going to work, guys. Not going to work." And that's when Russ Collins, young kid, little snide, I liked him. And he sat in my office. I said, "You know how big this job is going to be. I mean, this is going to be a big job, but you got a community behind you. I know damn well you do it. I can feel it. They're behind it. I can tell by the mail I'm getting, by the calls I'm getting, by the money I'm getting. I can just tell it's there." I said, "The board, they've got to interview him." I said, "But I like that kid." And I'm not hiring him. The board is going to hire him. I'm out of it now. I told the kids they can stay in their own beds. They don't have to move downtown.
Well, and Russ Collins is such an institution now.
Oh God, he's an institution as much as a. But that's how every of the big art projects started, because they knew I would fund them.
A comprehensive history of the Michigan Theater, including the financial arrangements that Lou Belcher helped negotiate, can be found in the book The Michigan Theater by Henry Aldrich and Russell B. Collins. In Part 3 of my conversation with Lou Belcher, we talk about how the contested election of 1977 inspired debate among college students, how the city managed growth during his term as mayor, and how he helped establish the Hands-On Museum and the Ann Arbor Summer Festival. Like and subscribe if you'd like to be alerted to more content like this.